but they seem to they just each kind of moved a little bit. Each character moves a little bit into the other one's space. So you have some jokiness from Matt because that character does have a sense of humor and playfulness. And then the other character, Hope, I think, he has to play a little more serious, a little more like there's real world threat in this situation.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. BD here for another Daredevil director debrief. You watched episode 4 last week. You saw how much fun I had talking to Jeffrey Nachmanoff, and this week is going to be no different. Episode 5 is out there. Episode 6 is also out there, so David Boyd interview will be available as well on the channel. But this episode right here, this is if you have not watched Daredevil Born Again episode 5, go watch it right now. Come back, get all your spoilers, get all your inside insights, because Jeffrey Nachmanoff is back on Face Hero. Jeff, how are you, man?
I'm good. Good to see you.
It's great to see you again, man. Thank you so much for
having me. Can I ask you something? Because we're doing the Marvel talk here. You've got DC Comics behind you there. Is that allowed? Is that?
You might not. You might have. Let me show you what else is right there. It might get lost in the. There you go. We got Daredevil.
Okay, yeah.
He's blending into the back a little bit, but I guess that's the whole point.
Got to put him up higher than Superman there.
I know. Well, the Superman statue's new. I got it from Sideshow, and I just was like, it looks good there. I had actually comments on my interview with Michael Cuesta, and they were like, you really left a Superman statue in the back? I was like, get out of here.
That's all right. Your fans are, they pay attention.
I'll tell you what, though, I am excited for the Superman movie. I'm not going to lie. I know we're talking about Marvel, but I cannot wait to see what James Gunn did with Superman. Right. I think that's going to be cool. But dude, what you did with episode 5 of Daredevil, this is a really cool, like you said last week, detour for Matt Murdock. I feel like 1 through 4, there was just a load of just pressure cooker, just all this. And then we see Matt now meet another character from the MCU from another show and, prevent a bank robbery from becoming catastrophic. And it's St. Patty's Day in the MCU.
Exactly. What more can you ask for?
Let's start on St. Patty's Day, dude. I don't think we've ever seen March 17th in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Where'd that come from?
I don't know. When it came in this way, this episode is it is the only completely untouched episode, I believe, from the original version of the show before we went back and reworked it. And you can feel that it has that bottle episode feel because it's just Matt. For the most part. And, there are a lot of reasons. Your fans all understand TV making. People do it. They do it for schedule reasons. I referenced like some of the most famous bottle episodes, like The Fly from Breaking Bad and all the ones from, Walking Dead, that they're done usually because they're trying to just control the budget or the time schedules of the actors or whatever. I don't know what the original thinking was that went into this one, but they created it. And my assignment was to go in and sort of say, all right, this is Dog Day Afternoon. This is Inside Man. This is a bank heist, gone wrong episode. And you treat it as its own contained story. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. I mean, it was really fun to shoot. We actually shot it in the same bank down in Wall Street, literally where they shot Inside Man. And I don't think anyone else will ever shoot there again because they were demoing the interior. So it's all that
financial district.
Yeah, literally down on Wall Street.
That's great. Wow. That on location makes such a big difference too, because it does visually immerse you in it right away.
On location. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you a funny little story. It's very expensive to shoot in downtown in New York at the, right down there in the financial district. It was very cold. And we had a very limited amount of time. We could only do it, the exterior, I believe was on a Sunday because that's when there's no traffic and things. And that was the time. So if it rained, if anything happened, we'd be just screwed. We get there. I had it planned out with my AD and my DP. We planned out like every shot so that we could get everything, the maximum number of shots done. But the very first thing we had with all the police cars arriving, that shot, it's a very narrow street and the cameras all had to come down this one street. And there was a truck parked, an SUV right in the way of where we needed to shoot. And this is it. Like we arrive at 6 a.m. and we're like, oh my God, it takes us, and we can't get it moved. We call the NYPD and we said, well, we'll have it towed. That's in the past when I've had a film shoot. We just say, we'll tow a car if it's in the way. And they're like, oh, we're not allowed to do that anymore. They've changed the rules. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Anyway, long story short, it was a big holdup. Turns out it was one of our own crew members that had parked there.
Oh, no. No. That's the most expensive.
It was very expensive, but we got it done. We got everything done. You know, but
who was the crew member? Out them? No, don't do that.
Oh my goodness, no! I don't even know who the person was, but you know, it was just like that. And this is also one of the lessons of filmmaking from the highest level. Whether you're doing like a big Marvel production, whether you're doing a little student film, things go wrong, and you have to kind of immediately adapt. So we ended up starting the day doing something different, and then we came back and did that shot that we wanted to do.
That's funny, man. And I think I find it interesting that tonight is when, you know, episode 5 release is being released with episode 6 because, like you said, it's a bottle episode and it feels like 1 through 4 really set a really strong trajectory. And this is like, hold on, we're going to enrich Matt Murdock. We're going to show you what he's doing, even when he's not directly paralleling Kingpin. And then we go right back into 6. When you saw that this was a bottle episode, were you a little bit like, okay, hold on, are people going to accept this? How do we, because fans are, the attention spans right now, and I'm guilty of this too sometimes. It's like I want to see the whole thing move. And this episode ends up being its own little mini movie in a sense, and it's a lot of fun. What were your thoughts when you first saw this was going to be a side story that maybe doesn't, you know, move everything at the breakneck pace it's going?
I was a little bit kind of like, wow, where's the, you know, where's Fisk? What's going on? But once you kind of just embrace this is what we're going to tell in this story. Mm-hmm. I actually ended up really enjoying that episode. First of all, our Irish main villain, Killian, was terrific, super entertaining. And he was actually friends with the actress who plays Heather, Margarita, who's also an old friend of mine. And he got this part and he just, you know, went with it. And he's really a charming guy. And as a result, I think that dynamic between him and Matt Murdock becomes something that you kind of want to. He's like, for that day, he's filling in as the sparring partner. And obviously, he's no Wilson Fisk. He can't really compete, but he was a really fun verbal sparring partner. And
was there a reason you had an Irish actor? Was the Irish accent intentional?
Oh, it was totally intentional. Yeah, it was it was scripted as an Irish gang on St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
And I think I don't know why they decided to do it that way, but that was the order of the day. So that's what we did, you know? Like I said, it was just kind of old school. And it was like it's a little bit of a throwback and a nod to, you know, probably, you know, I think of more of like 70s movies or, you know, where you're just leaning into the old school Hell's Kitchen, New York idea, which doesn't really exist anymore. Hell's Kitchen's now, you know, yuppies and condos or whatever. But there's this idea of what, you know, Hell's Kitchen and the crime, you know, I think Gangs of New York which goes way back. But, you know, those roots of New York and the Irish gangs there is something I think that they liked to nod to. And really if you go back to the Netflix series and looking at his parents, that's there as well. And of course, having Yusuf Khan as his foil in that episode, you know, he's a really fun actor, and it brings just a total different energy to the whole episode, which I think in the end people are going to enjoy, or hopefully they really enjoy, because it has its own charm, so to speak.
Yeah. And I mean, bringing a character in who is an established MCU character is always fun for those of us, you know, I'm sure everybody who's watching they've watched Miss Marvel. We all watch everything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe puts out. We want to enjoy all of it. Bringing in Yusuf Khan's a nice touch, a nice way to tie the Disney Plus shows together. How did that come to be? Was that always just from the jump in there?
Well, Sana obviously was a big part of creating that other show, and she's one of the Marvel producers on Daredevil. So I think it was kind of her influence, and she was great because she helped me understand what Yusuf's background was, and the tone of that other show is much lighter, much more comedic. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, how do we make that work Daredevil is about as dark as you go in Marvel, and I'd say Miss Marvel might be about as light as you can go, or maybe She-Hulk, whatever. But so I thought the actors did a terrific job of living in the same space, because it's not easy. You know, if you have a comedic character and a serious character together, they might feel like, well, one of them doesn't even live in this world, but they seem to they just each kind of moved a little bit, you know, each character moves a little bit into the other one's space. So you have some jokiness from Matt, because that character does have a sense of humor and playfulness, and then the other character, Hope, I think, you know, he has to play a little more serious, a little more like there's real world threat in this situation. You know, one thing that your fans might find interesting is, so we had this bank, which was great, but because the bank was a very expensive location, we couldn't do anything else, so that we wanted to do this stairway fight. And of course, stairway fights are a big thing in the Daredevil universe. But when you do the really complicated ones that are oneers, those are usually on a build. So you do it on a stage because there's a lot of wires involved. There's like a lot of things involved. This was that stairway is the stairway in the bank. It's all marble, super hard, no way to like completely safety it. And this is an unusual fight. It's one of the very few fights, I don't know how many other ones take place in this entire series, where Matt Murdock is fighting as Matt Murdock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about that.
So when I read that, I'm like, you guys sure you want to do this? He's like exposing himself, like, no, it works for this episode. I'm like, okay, great. But that means, of course, Charlie is going to do most of that stunt work. I mean, Charlie's already doing a lot of his own stunt work, but when you have the mask on, when you have a super hard fall or something really acrobatic, you can double him with his stunt double because he's masked. And this one, he had to do, I mean, we did the whole thing multiple times with the stunt players, but then we had to put Charlie in. And Charlie's an amazing athlete. He was I can't remember what his sport was, and he was a young man. It might have been like football or cricket or rugby or something, but he's a good athlete. But of course, now he's an actor, so he trains all the time, but it's like, it's different being an actor and a stuntman. It's hard. And there are a couple of moves that are very physically demanding.
I also find it interesting because I professional wrestle as well, and what they teach you is sell, sell, sell. We show your face, because that's, if you want to get the crowd sympathy, you got to show your face. So for Matt Murdock, when he's Daredevil and he's selling you, he's usually covered. This is an opportunity for Matt to, both while he's taking a beating and while he's giving a beating, show that face, show the emotion, which I think is probably refreshing as a director too, to have that moment with the character like this.
And the other thing is, it was the first in the series at this point in Daredevil Born Again, it's Matt finally like kind of beginning to embrace being Daredevil again and being a vigilante and fighting, which is something he's been resisting all through episodes 1 through 4. You know, other than the brief scene with the cop that he fights and the White Tiger episode, he hasn't really been fighting. You know, not as much as he would once he's kind of fully embraced it. So this was, I think, part of the purpose of this episode, which hopefully works for the audience, is to give them a little break from the main things, entertain them along the way, but also continue that journey of saying, oh, he's got to do it. He's got to be, he's got to fight.
Well, that's the through line from watching it. It feels like the through line is Matt is just being drawn to that side, especially by the end of this, when he catches these guys. He goes down the street to catch the guy and make sure he gets the jewel back. Like, he is embracing the fact that he wants to enforce justice his way and not through the system, as he's been trying to do in the earlier episodes. And I appreciated that by the end of it, for sure. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think, and he does a great job portraying that, But we had fun, and so that was that sequence. Again, we had to shoot it pretty quickly, and we had to keep it somewhat simple, but we wanted to live up to the, so he doesn't have a lot of his acrobatic stuff, but it's a little more close combat, a little more like down and dirty, and there were some fun tricks too, like when the thing is going to fall and he has to catch it. I think I can't remember. We had a couple. I remember I did one take. I don't know which one, to be honest, we used, but your fans might like this. In order to have it fall down towards camera and catch the device, I said to the camera, let's just do one where it starts on. This is a very like film school technique. Attach a piece of filament to it and yank it up and have it go up, and then we'll just reverse the film.
There you go.
So, and it's like, that's like this is like, we're going back to the beginning of film time to do that stuff. But we're like, oh yeah, reverse the film. and I think we might have used that take in there, so it looks like it's coming down into his hand.
That's genius. That's clever. That's such a simple trick too. It's just so old school. I dig
it.
Simple,
very simple stuff.
In the end of this episode, Matt leaves the jewel with Yusef. And I'm curious, like, is that jewel something that you wanted to explore some meaning to? Should we be on the lookout for that? And what does that say about Matt that he left it with him?
Oh, this episode, I don't know if this is any spoiler alert. This is a contained episode, so the jewel doesn't come back. But I think he's just putting things back in order. It's his version of, as you said, kind of like ordering the world, behind the scenes, instead of doing it, instead of going through the police or whatever. Yeah.
No, I appreciate. There was just that little that sound effect when the jewel pops up. I was like, wait a second, should we be looking?
I don't know. With Marvel, you never know if they're going to do something that you don't even know like they could have said, "Oh, that jewel is a special." I think they played with some of those ideas, but I think at the end of the day, it made more sense to keep this episode as a beginning, middle, and end, and you can watch it as its own piece.
I find it to be interesting that the most self-contained episode of Daredevil is simultaneously the most tied to the rest of the MCU compared to the rest of the show, because not only have Yusef, you have a reference to Kamala. He says, "My daughter's out in La La Land." As a director working in a big franchise, I mean, like, I'm just a huge Marvel nerd. I love this stuff. So seeing those references, seeing the continuity and the connectivity, I'm like, I enjoy it. I see those moments. I'm like, hell yeah, they're referencing Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. As a director, do you see those moments and go, "Oh, this is going to be fun"? Like, is there a certain way to execute that? Do you question, why is she in California the same way I do?
I'm like you. I just, in those moments, you're just a fellow fan, because that's all up at the top. They're making those decisions about what they're dropping in from here and there. Every now and then, it's good to like get the full story from the, like in that case, Sana's are linked to, Kevin and the bosses at Marvel. So she would say, "This is important for, because we want to signal this, that, or the other, So, for example, I didn't even know what the Funko is, but they're kind of, that's a classic Marvel joke of like being inside the world where you can have merchandising of your fake characters in your fake world, and like everything's fictional, but it's also all real. Like they really are, there really is merchandising for Marvel. So yeah. I think that the Marvel fans are super at this point sophisticated about the fact that they're part of that they're enjoying and participating in an entertainment system, but they also are aware that it's commercialized, right? Like the fact is that's otherwise it doesn't exist. So I think that by nodding to it constantly, it allows the audience to know, like, okay, we're part of this. We're not, the joke's not on us. We're in on the joke. We understand that this is a whole ecosystem, and we can laugh at it, and we can accept that. Yes, we're paying to enjoy this, but it's okay because no one's doing it secretly. It's all out in the open.
Yeah, I mean, how cool for you too to be a part of the. I mean, when I introed last week, I said everybody I know has seen The Day After Tomorrow. I mean, and that is true. That is a movie that, like, if you reference it, everybody gets it. So and now you're doing stuff with like Daredevil that everybody knows Daredevil. Everybody loves this stuff. I think it's pretty cool that you get to be a part of this stuff, man. So thank you.
I'm grateful to be a part of it, because you're right. It's like it's a conversation between the fans and the material. And those of us who are working on it, no one person is doing everything. You're contributing a little part to this whole conversation.
That's awesome, dude. And I know they just started season 2. Are you coming back? Are you doing more with Marvel yet?
I don't have a position yet for number 2, but I'll be here whenever they need me.
Hey, man. Well, great work. Thank you so much for hanging with me and talking about Daredevil Born Again and your work and your contribution to this. I mean, I've seen the whole thing. The show rules, dude. And you're a huge part of that. So thank you so much for joining me to talk about it.
It was great to chat with you. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the show, Brandon.
Thanks, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching. From here, David Boyd takes over with the next 2 episodes, and then Aaron and Justin come back for 8 and 9. So we will have more Daredevil director debriefs. So don't miss those if you've enjoyed these last 2 with Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next week.